most of the jobs that are out there are not necessarily posted or advertised, and that's something that ACCES offers. We help newcomers to build their network. We really want to make sure that newcomers to Canada, that we go through that process of helping them to have their credentials assessed in Canada. Another really significant barrier is when you're in a new city, a new country, you won't have that same network of professionals. If somebody joins one of our programs, then they can expect to have like a combination of either in-person or online support.
Life in Canada can be challenging, whether you're new to the country or you've been here for years. But once you unlock the right services, build connections, and access the right support, you can truly thrive. Canada is a beautiful country with so much to offer, and no one should have to navigate its challenges alone. Welcome to Thrive in Canada, where we explore real-life experiences, practical solutions, and expert insights to help you build a fulfilling life here. Today, we're going to talk about something that touches every newcomer and, frankly, most Canadians: finding meaningful work. Whether you're a skilled immigrant trying to restart your career or someone re-entering the workforce in a new country, the job search can feel like a maze. Credential recognition, Canadian experience requirements, and the ever-evolving digital landscape are just a few of the barriers many people face. So to help us unpack this complex journey and offer concrete tools for success, we're joined by Manjeet Dhiman, Senior Vice President of Services and Strategic Initiatives at ACCES Employment, a leading organization that supports over thousands of job seekers every year. In this conversation, we'll explore how newcomers can overcome credential gaps, build confidence in digital job markets, and tap into mentorship, bridging programs, and even entrepreneurship. Whether you're just starting your journey or trying to find your second wind, this episode will have practical advice. So let's get started. Hi, Manjeet. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Sherry. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so let's first tell us about ACCES Employment and the people that you support.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm happy to speak about ACCES, but before I do that, I just really want to acknowledge the tragedy that happened in Vancouver at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival. I think that was such a huge tragedy for all Canadians, and I know it especially hit the Filipino community in a very devastating way. So my condolences goes out to all of the family that was affected, the family, friends, and the entire community.
Thank you. On behalf of the community, we appreciate the sympathies.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm very pleased to be here to talk about ACCES Employment. We have been around since 1986, so we have over 38 years of experience in the Greater Toronto Area. We are a nonprofit charitable organization. So that means that our services are essentially free to our users. Most of our programs are funded by government. We also have many corporate sponsors and donors that support the services that we offer. And we focus on employment, and we offer a wide range of services, but we do kind of have a specialization in helping new Canadians or newcomers to Canada to find work in their field or that aligns with their goals. So we have 7 locations across the Greater Toronto Area. We are in Scarborough, in North York, in Toronto, also in Mississauga and Brampton, as well as Markham and Newmarket. So we have a really great footprint across the Greater Toronto Area. And in addition to our physical footprint, a lot of our services are accessible online, and so we serve clients across Ontario, across Canada, and even pre-arrival, so before they arrive to Canada. So approved immigrants can begin to start using our services and planning their job search and their journey even before they arrive.
And you talked about the specializations. What are those?
So as I mentioned, we do specialize in serving newcomers to Canada. And so we have such a wide range of programs. and we assist people in terms of whatever type of work that they're looking for. And then in addition to kind of the broader range of services, we have specialized what we call sector-specific bridge training programs. So that really is with the idea that many newcomers to Canada come with professional backgrounds, and we really want to make sure that they find work in their field.
Just to give us an idea, like how many clients do you think ACCES Employment helped like the last year?
Including all of, again, our online services and touch points, we served over 56,000 clients last year in 2024.
And what would you say are the three main employment barriers that job seekers currently face?
That's a really good question. And I think that, of course, it varies depending on the individual and their circumstances, what kinds of challenges they're facing. When we're talking about internationally trained professionals or newcomers to Canada with that type of background, certainly credential recognition is a big barrier that they face. And that especially true for professionals who are in licensed fields. Of course, if they're a nurse, a doctor, many individuals will need to then go through a licensing process. But even for newcomers, professionals who are not in licensed professionals, even just their education, if they have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, often, employers don't recognize that. They're like, oh, what does that mean? Because we're so used to seeing things on resumes and seeing, oh, it's U of T or it's, whatever, it's a local university that people recognize. And if the education is outside of Canada, it just doesn't kind of resonate the same way with employers. And so often it becomes maybe devalued or, there's a lot of uncertainty. We really want to make sure that newcomers to Canada, first of all, that we go through that process of helping them to have their credentials assessed in Canada, which can be really helpful so that it's not just their foreign credentials, but that we can say that this is the equivalent. And maybe that's done through organizations such as World Education Services, which is a partner of ours. And it's a service that helps immigrants to get their academic qualifications assessed and the equivalency in Canada. So that can be really helpful to put that on your resume to show that, this is the education you have, but it's also equivalent to a degree in Canada. And then depending on the profession, there is sometimes licensing bodies or professional associations that will help with the credential assessments as well. A great example is, of course, the Professional Engineers of Ontario. When you do the licensing process for engineers, they will do the academic assessment as well. So we help clients kind of navigate that process.
That can be
so that's one of the big
right?
barriers, one of the significant barriers that newcomers can face. But I think another really significant barrier is, when you're new in a new city, a new country, you won't have that same network of professionals. And what we know about job search is that most of the jobs that are out there are not necessarily posted or advertised. You kind of learn about them through people, through conversations, through your network of contacts. And so if you're new to Canada, sometimes you're missing that connection. And that's something that ACCES offers. We help newcomers to build their network by meeting other people who are in similar circumstances. So a lot of our services are offered in groups. So people get to meet other people who are in similar circumstances. And of course, we do a lot of networking sessions where they get to meet employers, people from professional associations and things like that. So it kind of builds their social capital and their professional network. And then lastly, maybe kind of a different client group. If people have been out of work for a period of time, then of course their skills can start to become outdated. And these days in the labor market, things change so quickly, especially with technology so fast changing every industry. And so sometimes maybe skills need to be updated with some new, and it doesn't have to be formal education. It could be online courses, it could be quick certifications or online learning that can really help to bridge that skills gap as well.
How does it start for someone, for example, having the challenge of finding work? How does the process start? Of course, and that can be different processes for people who are not yet in Canada or those who have been here already, but maybe generally you can walk us through that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly our website is kind of a gateway to our services. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to check out our website. It's accessemployment.ca. I think one of the things that we offer is just information and resources, even right on our website. We have something called e-access. We have videos, written information, different pieces of information that people can consume that will just help them to learn a little bit more about the Canadian job market and how to job search and so on. So that's really valuable information. We have information for youth. We have a youth hub on our website. We also have an entrepreneurs hub on our website, so helping people if they are interested in starting their own business. So that's a great gateway to get information and begin the journey and learning. And then if people need more support, they can certainly call us. We have on our website, we have a chatbot that kind of gives you more information and can guide you into which programs or services might be suitable. And then people can contact us. If somebody joins one of our programs, then they can expect to have like a combination of either in-person or online support. And that can be one-on-one coaching, really helping people to kind of look at their individual circumstances, what are their needs, and how can we support them. But it also includes like learning, so group workshops and training on job search strategies, how to call an employer, what to say, how to prepare for an interview, like what are the questions they're going to ask you and how should you prepare for that, building your resume, applying for jobs online, all of these kinds of things we can help them
So
through.
this one applicant, for example, does he get one-on-one mentorship, or does he get referred to one particular project individual?
Yeah.
Or
Usually, each client will connect with an employment counselor. So that's our staff. They are employment consultants, and we also have employer liaisons that help to connect them to employers. So we also do a lot of events with employers, so job fairs, recruitment events, and so they can have a chance to directly kind of see what are some of the leading employers, what are the positions they're hiring for, how can they present themselves to those employers. We do have networking and mentoring events as well. So the mentors are often our volunteers, like volunteers from the different companies that we work with. And they're very interested in just meeting with our clients and helping them to guide them as well and give them, information about the industry in Canada and so on. So mentoring is an important piece of the work that we do.
you connect with the employers as well.
Yes.
How does that work? Like, do they go to you? Do you reach out to them? How's the dynamics with that one?
Both. Yeah, we do both. So yeah, our services are bringing clients kind of to their employment goal, but working at it from both angles. So on the one side, we're working with the job seekers to help prepare them. As I said, like working on their resumes, their interview skills, learning about the job market. But at the same time, we're bringing the employers to the table as well and creating opportunities for them to connect. It's amazing for employers because, we're a free resource for them as well, a free source of talent. So we can create that kind of pipeline of talent for the employers. And we build trust relationships with the employers so that they know that we will do our best to help screen candidates and find the right candidates for them as well, because we have such a broad pool of candidates to share with them.
Yeah, of course, you're not an employment agency.
Yeah.
But it kind of works that way.
Yeah, we distinguish ourselves from an employment agency, which is, not to say that that is also not a valuable source. Those are services that employers will pay for so that they can, get an agency to kind of recruit for them. We're a free service and we're working for the employer and for the candidates. So,
And you mentioning that it's free for for the applicants themselves, do they have to pay any fee for the services?
yeah, there's a few of our programs where there's very nominal fees, and it's usually programs that have a training piece to it. And in fact, we partner with colleges and universities to bring academic pieces, certifications into our programs. So just as an example, we have a program for engineers, and within the program, they will actually get a course on fundamentals of project management. And it's a preparation for writing their project management certification. So, if they went and got that course on their own, it would actually cost a lot more. So the fee that we offer to get that training is fairly nominal. So there's a few programs where there are fees, but most of our programs do not have fees. They're covered by our government funders and our sponsors.
Can you help us streamline, for example, for those who are listening to us today, they're not sure whether this applies to them. Like they have certain employment issues, or maybe some of their friends or their loved ones, but they're not sure if ACCES Employment can actually cater to that need or that issue that they're currently having. Who are we speaking to?
Again, if you're in touch with ACCES, one of the things that, because we are a community organization, we're also partner with many other service providers and community organizations as well. So, based on our conversations with candidates, even if we're helping them in their job search, at the same time, they might have other challenges that they're facing that might be outside the scope of our services. Maybe they're dealing with health challenges, right? That's maybe creating a barrier in their job search. Maybe that they're new to Canada and they're having trouble with their children in settling into schools. Maybe they're having issues with, with elders in their family and getting support for them. All of these kinds of supports can actually impact a person's job search and their ability to find the time, the resources. It adds extra stress in their life. Those kinds of resources, we will then also look at what other resources are available in the community that can help them with some of those other factors that are maybe a challenge for them.
So you also connect them to these other different
exactly.
services.
Trying to make our services holistic, and we just coordinate our services with various other partners and service providers across the Greater Toronto Area.
But just in case for those who are watching us and not very familiar with who could be your possible targets or the people who could benefit from the services of ACCES, are these just people who are looking for jobs or, as you mentioned earlier, trying to navigate the credential recognition? So that's another one in all fields. In all fields.
If we have clients that come to us and we feel that we can serve their needs, and we have programming that supports them in their needs, we will absolutely leverage our supports. If they're in a field or doing something that maybe is again outside of our scope, we again have partnerships with colleges, universities, other bridge training programs as well. So not only ours, but there's a whole network of providers across Ontario. We would also look at even geographically where they're targeting their job search. So sometimes I've spoken a little bit about engineering. We have programs even for example, our agricultural technology, vertical farming, advanced manufacturing. And sometimes there are jobs available kind of outside the Greater Toronto Area. So then we would also try to connect them with services and supports that they might need if they were, looking at opportunities outside of the GTA as well. Yeah.
In the last few years or months, how's the employment atmosphere in the Greater Toronto Area? Do we still lack a lot of talents in certain sectors, or are we kind of moving up and kind of matching what employers need with the talent pool that Canada or at least the GTA has?
Yeah, I think this is something we've been hearing about and talking about for decades. I think generally speaking, Canada has a relatively small population when you compare ourselves to other countries. And, if we want to be a strong economy, having workers to really grow our economy is so essential. I think that definitely in terms of, labor market projections, many areas, there are some very severe shortages and gaps. Sometimes I think where there might be a bit of a disconnect is where are the gaps? Because Canada is such a big country as well, right? And we have kind of the big cities, we have smaller towns. So sometimes the greater gaps are sometimes in the smaller towns, sometimes it's in the urban areas. So again, even this is an area that we really try to help newcomers to kind of navigate that, they may have landed in Toronto, but are the best opportunities in Toronto? Is it kind of outside of Toronto? Is it in other parts of Ontario? This is where our pre-arrival services also comes in very handy, because sometimes when people are just going through the immigration process and they're planning to come to Canada, they only know about the big cities. They know about Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and they haven't heard about some of the smaller towns. So if they can get some of that information even before they come to Canada, that can also help them in terms of settling in which community they might be most successful, or where there's the greatest demand for the type of work that they're looking for. Again, that's a part of our pre-arrival services. And even once they land here too, people, especially newcomers, and many people, I think when they're looking for work, I find that they are very flexible in terms of kind of exploring different opportunities and and what exists out there. So that kind of labor market information is really critical. I think generally speaking, I think there's like some short-term impacts that affect the labor market. You know, the COVID was huge in terms of having a very sudden impact. Now we're seeing maybe the impacts of tariffs, right? And how that will impact our labor market. But I think that in the long run, Canada needs to continue to really invest in our labor market, in our workforce, and that includes newcomers to Canada.
And this is very good to know for those who are watching us from outside of Canada, because planning to move to another country, of course, a big part of that is what work am I going to be doing in that country. And I'm sure they've heard a lot of things about, it may be difficult for me to practice the same profession that I'm practicing, like maybe half their lives already. And that's part of the insecurity of moving, let's say, to Canada. Maybe some of those who are outside Canada considering this country are also choosing among other countries as well. So why move to this particular country? And I guess that's a good nugget of information for them to know that even before they arrive, they can get very specific information, something that can help them make the decision on whether employment would be something that they could easily dive into or prepare things while they're not yet in Canada, right?
So, you know, like I said, the licensing process is a really great example, or getting the academic equivalency. You don't have to wait to arrive to Canada. You can get the ball rolling on those things, because sometimes that can take a few weeks or longer. But in terms of licensing, that can take sometimes, you know, months or years, right? And so it's really good for people to know what that process might look like. And then how will they do it, right? So as another example of one of the programs that we offer a series of programs for healthcare professionals to help them to look at alternative careers. Because if they are going to follow the long pathway to licensing, sometimes it can take some time, but they need to work in the meantime. So what can they do, right? Rather than end up in a job that's completely unrelated, or what we might call a survival job that's just way below their qualifications, we can look at what are some alternatives. Healthcare professional, for example, through our programming, we can help them to look for other careers such as research or healthcare administration, working in the pharmaceutical industry. These kinds of professions where they're still using their skills and their knowledge and their experience, and perhaps applying it into a different sector, but it's still related, and it's still allowing them to make a living, a meaningful living, and at the same time perhaps pursue their longer term goals in terms of licensing, in terms of getting into their profession.
I'm glad, Manjeet, that you mentioned that, because that resonates a lot with Filipino nurses. And we know a lot of Filipino nurses who are working in an unrelated, like what you said, what's the term? A working...
Survival job.
A survival job, that's way below their capabilities. And that's good to know that they can get in touch with you and you can help. ACCES Employment can help them tap in jobs in the healthcare industry. There's so many other options.
Again, we can help them, and we know of other programs as well that actually are specific for nurses and helping them through their licensing pathway. So they can almost do both. Again, like while they're doing their licensing, looking at different things, they might want to consider other work as well. So we can really help, again, internationally trained professionals kind of navigate through those journeys.
And if they can't afford maybe the training, or they feel it's too high a financial burden, are there also options for maybe tapping some funding for those maybe scholarships? I don't know, grants?
Yeah, absolutely. There are grants, bursaries, microloans that are available to newcomers as well. So we would definitely, again, though, that's another area of where we have good information about different resources that are available for newcomers to help them through that.
The digital skills, with so much job hunting now online, and especially digital skills are what matters most nowadays. For those who aren't very digitally adept, does ACCES Employment offer like certain services for them as well?
Yeah. The fact that now many of our services are also online or available online, we certainly do understand that we can't just say, okay, here, log in. We also help people to kind of say, okay, this is our online services. This is kind of step by step how you can access it. This is how you would log in. This is what you do. This is the equipment you might need, and so on. So we do, I think, just even that experience of accessing our online services and us helping them through that helps to build their digital skills. It'll help them in the workplace as well, because I think more and more, digital access to different resources, whether it's in the workplace or even otherwise. We again learned through COVID that having digital skills is an essential skills these days. So many things, so many other services, whether you're, going for your driver's license or you're, doing any other, getting any other supports, navigating kind of like online services is really important. So we do support people in building their digital skills so that they can access our services and that they can be ready for the workplace. But for people who, are more in the kind of technology sector or, in a different sector, but where digital skills is becoming more and more important in every field. That's part of the upskilling and the learning that I was mentioning earlier. The labor market changes so quickly, right? And the jobs are changing so quickly. Now there's AI, where people may not have used AI for writing, designing, all of these things. Now those skills and that information becomes really important. And so that's kind of like the new way of doing things. So those are also elements that we're bringing into our programs so that people are prepared for like kind of the modern today's workplace, so that they're ready to kind of hit the ground running and they have that edge, right? Because those are the kinds of skills that will make them that much more marketable and successful in the workplace.
Yeah, that's an important gap to cover because a good portion of the population aren't learning fast enough with how AI is taking over a lot of other aspects in the job. Or, a lot of people don't realize that it can make their job easier in certain aspects, but also how to handle that because it's a balancing act still, right? One wise guest once told me that if you are still averse to technology at this point, you will really get left behind. It has really come to the point where you have to embrace it if you want to be successful in any field nowadays. So it's good to know that at least at the very basic level of even accessing your website itself, it wouldn't be that intimidating because
it's very intuitive. We try to make sure that our website and all of our digital resources are very easy to access. They're simple to use. I think, this was one of the kind of silver linings of the pandemic, was that, I think everybody, again, really realized the importance of having digital skills, having digital tools even. So, I think before the pandemic, not everybody had, a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone, right? And I think more and more people realize that it's so essential to have those resources in their homes. It's become such a part of like even their children's education, even young kids, right? And so their families are learning to use the digital tools. So many aspects of their life. It's really important. Even paying bills and doing things like that, right? It's an important part of everyday life. And it certainly is big. I can add in terms of employment, we're also seeing like employers, again, using more digital tools, including AI, even in terms of their hiring processes. So just as an example, before you might have emailed a resume, now you have to upload your resume, and people have like scanners in their systems where they are looking for like keywords and they're filtering through resumes using online tools. So you have to be kind of aware of like, are you using the right terminology in your resume? Because it's not even a person that's kind of reading it through. It might be a computer system that's set up to pick up on those keywords. And so, that's where that terminology, the keywords, having them in your resume and being able to upload your resume into the system. We're seeing a lot more online interviews. And sometimes they're live, sometimes it's a recording. They'll just send you a link and say, okay, answer these questions. It's a recording. And then it gets sent to the employer as a video that they can view, right? So that can be something people are not quite used to. And part of our services is helping people, again, to be ready for that type of job search journey, right?
Yeah, it could throw you off your game if you're so used to, and you used to ace interviews.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that you're gonna ace the online or even taped interviews.
Yeah,
like that. Like, I don't know. Like, some people like to have someone in front of them. They can maybe express themselves better that way.
And usually it's a combination, but I think some employers again might be doing 2 or 3 stages of interviews, right? So they might do a pre-screening, maybe that's online, and then they'll invite you in for an in-person interview. So again, it's preparing for both. I think, again, we're in a post-pandemic phase now where people are sort of getting back to more in-person connections and contact. I think we're, learning that it can't go all digital either, because we don't want to lose that human touch. And I think what we can, see in each other and learn from each other in person is still very valuable.
Right.
But it is definitely what we would call kind of a hybrid model. Our services are hybrid. I think the hiring process are very kind of, that combination as well. Yeah.
Let's go to the networking programs that you offer. How does that look like?
All of our services, as I mentioned earlier, and I mentioned the fact that we recognize this is one of the greatest barriers that many job seekers face if they've been out of the workforce for a long time, or if they're a newcomer to Canada. They often are missing those connections. And those connections are so important. And so we will host networking sessions with employers, but also even with other clients as well. We also have what we call our alumni network, which means that when our participants, our clients find work, they're successful in their job search, we stay connected with them so that we can not only help them to continue to grow in their careers, but that they can also come back and help other clients. And so it's their kind of way of giving back and supporting others. So they remember that, a year ago I was in that situation and now I want to support somebody else. So we use our alumni network to create networking events for our participants and for them as well. So this is a really a great feature that, again, we also know that, sometimes just finding the job is the first job is one challenge, but then it's also like, again, the ongoing career development, the progression in their career, those things, once they're in the workplace, then we can continue to support them in that way. So we support them and they support us by helping some of our new candidates. And many of our alumni become our employers as well. So now they're working for companies who are hiring, and they keep that that eye and on what's happening in their company. If they're hiring, they're creating that network for their company and for us as well. So they'll often come back with the companies that they're working for as employers. So that's a really wonderful kind of like a circle of, it closes the circle. So when you're starting out, you're getting the support, you're getting the mentoring, and then you become a mentor, you become an employer, you're coming back and supporting other people. We really pride ourselves on keeping that connection and that network of our participants. So we host networking events. We also have mentoring events. We do that in different ways. One of our programs is called Speed Mentoring, exactly as it sounds. It's really an opportunity like speed dating. Yeah. It's really an opportunity for a group of our participants to meet with a group of mentors. Sometimes they're all from the same company. Sometimes they're from different companies. Sometimes there are alumni that are participating in that. And then we have kind of like a lineup of people, usually sitting at a table, and each mentor gets to meet with the mentee for 10 minutes and have an interaction, ask questions, and then we ring the bell and they move to the next mentor. So basically, within an hour, they can speak to, 5 or 6 mentors and get that kind of expert advice. We prepare our clients to say, okay, you're going to be meeting with a mentor. What's the questions that you want to ask, right? What's the information you want to gain? So they're prepared to ask those questions, get the right information. And then when the speed mentoring's over, the whole group gets to have a chance to network and speak to each other and so on. Again, really, really valuable. We always find people walk away, our job seekers walk away with great connections, sometimes job leads, or sometimes just people that they're going to call, or they got leads. Somebody will tell them, I know somebody who's, so it'll be connections. And the other thing that's really great about our mentoring programs is the employers walk away with a new understanding and appreciation of the talent that they've seen. So sometimes they come in thinking, okay, people are unemployed, they, maybe their skills are out, maybe their English is not good. But once they meet with our candidates, it just instills a really high level of trust and excitement, because they're seeing, wow, this is like amazing talent that maybe they didn't know about before. So it's a really good example of how, again, we're preparing the candidates, but we're also bringing the employers to the table, and we're changing their mindset, and we're opening up their perspective on newcomers and international talent.
So I'm seeing that it sounds like one of your more popular programs.
It's very popular, yes.
The one that brings in a lot of success and a lot of feedback from both ends. And that's again another good nugget when the employers see a bigger context in terms of the labor force that they get faced with.
Yeah.
If they came in there just looking for someone to hire for particular maybe gaps in their structure, now they see them in a different light. Getting to meet someone personally, even if you don't end up hiring them, just gives you a bigger perspective.
And it gives them something to think about, like, for the future as well. And I think, again, engaging our employers as mentors and as volunteers, it's a way for them to be involved, but not necessarily like, I have a job. Like if we have a job fair, they'll be like, okay, no, we're not hiring right now.
Right.
But if it's a mentoring event, it's okay. Even if you're not hiring right now, just come help our clients, come give them advice, and that's like not a hiring commitment on their part, but it does kind of pave the pathway.
Right.
So that when they are hiring, they will remember some of the candidates they met, or they'll remember ACCESS and come to us and say, okay, I do have a vacancy and this is what I'm looking for.
In the last few months or few years, what do you see are the skills, or what do employers look for?
Absolutely. Like I said, technology is changing so quickly. The labor market's changing so quickly. So we do always want technical skills to be upgraded. But I think more than that, employers are really looking for, we call it soft skills, but it's really like that communication, the interpersonal skills, the presentation skills, the ability to like take initiative. We call these also future skills as well, right? Because it's really, as you mentioned, with technology, in fact, some of the technical tasks can be accomplished in a different ways. But the ability to negotiate and to communicate and present information, or come up with, like, have some critical thinking, those are the types of skills that you don't just learn with a quick course. You can learn a new application or software, but those types of skills are really foundational. And if you have those skills, then you can also be a quick learner. You can learn new systems and so on. So employers are really looking for those foundational skills, because you have to be adaptable. Even if you learn something today, you know what? In 6 months or a year, you might have to learn something different, right? And you learn exactly how adaptable are you with
But
those
it
changes.
Really changed. It's still pretty much
those are really core
the soft skills
competencies.
are still very
so
important.
true. It's so true.
What about creativity? There's been a study that creativity is actually what we need to address modern day issues and what we need from modern day leaders. It's not anymore the brute strength or the very opinionated leader. It's actually the creative leaders. Do you think the employers are kind of factoring that in and looking for creativity in their...
Yeah, absolutely. They are looking for creativity, and as you said, it's kind of like that. I know this is just an expression, but like thinking outside the box, which is like not the typical way of doing it. What's a new, more innovative or different way of doing things, maybe that people haven't considered. So employers are looking for that. That's part of, I think a lot of businesses are trying to, again, adapt and change as the labor market changes, or as the economy changes, as the world changes so quickly. So, and now we're looking at, for example, with even the threat of tariffs, I think businesses are looking at, how do we tap into new markets? Right? And this is an area where, again, newcomers with their international experience and skills and languages, can be so useful to businesses who are now going to be looking at, how can we change maybe or shift some of the markets that we work with internationally, right? So it's not just the U.S. It can be with other markets, right? So there's going to be, I think, lots of new opportunities, and this is where, again, businesses will be thinking outside of the box, and this is where we, in terms of supporting our job seekers, can really help them to kind of, know how to position themselves in that with those changes.
That's a very useful information. I didn't even get to think about that. Yeah, that now that we're pivoting to other markets other than the U.S., there are opportunities there. Yeah. And if your skills, maybe before you didn't think it was very important, but now you can tweak it in such a way that you have an edge over these other markets. Probably a lot of immigrants will probably be
know
in
those markets really well.
Be in that category. Let's talk about your bridging programs.
Sure.
Tell us about that and how can that support job seekers?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we do sector-specific programs that really target certain professions or industries. And the reason we do this is, first of all, we want to make sure that newcomers are targeting their profession, right? We really want engineers to find jobs in the engineering field. We want healthcare professionals to find jobs in the healthcare sector. And so we know that each industry is also a little bit different, right? In terms of, again, what their requirements are, how they hire, what are the prerequisites, what are the licensing requirements, all of these kinds of things. So we want to make sure that our programs are tailored to that industry, and it's not just like general job search. So we have programs that target industries. I mentioned a few: healthcare, engineering, advanced manufacturing. We have a new program in vertical farming, which is a new emerging industry as well. We also have a program for early childhood educators, where there's a huge demand right now. So I think that's a good place to start. A lot of our programs are built based on demand, based on what employers are looking for, based on where we know there's a high need, and that we want to make sure that our participants get into those fields. And then the bridging programs, depending on the field or the program, it can vary anywhere from about 6 to 10 weeks. Our early childhood educator program is much longer because it involves a lot more training, but usually around 6 to 10 weeks. And there are certain components. So I mentioned the job search already. Again, it's tailored to the jobs, to the sector. But we also do, in all of our programs, have a partnership with one of the academic institutions, whether that's a public institution or a private sector association or stakeholder, where participants can get some of the specific skills that the industry is looking for. Again, I mentioned earlier, when it comes to engineering, that could be, for example, project management. That's maybe a specific skill or certification that employers are looking for. So we're going to help them get that type of certification. So we do have that training piece involved. And another, of course, big piece is the mentoring, the networking, the employers, and having those kinds of events and networking opportunities so that people can get jobs in their fields.
What I asked earlier, in terms of fees, are these free? And you're saying some of the training
Some of the training, yeah, some of the programs are free. And a few of our programs do have fees, depending on the training component. And it's very nominal. It's usually a couple of $100. Again, whereas, and people recognize we often have waiting lists for these programs because they know that if I wanted to do this, project management course, it's going to cost me much more if I did it outside. So, but there's so many other things that are covered with the program. Sometimes there's the fees of certain certifications and things like that. So it's very nominal. And actually, whenever there is a fee, there's also a bursary that they can apply for. So in the end, it's free. It's just a process where we have access to a bursary that they can apply for. So even if it's $200, $300 that they're spending on that training, they can get that reimbursed through a bursary. So we'll help them through that as well.
So in 6 to 10 weeks, they'll pretty much be ready to dive into
and that's kind of 6 to 10 weeks is like where we have a group of people come together and go through these components. But after the program, that part of the program is over, the program is not over. That's when we start to do a lot of one-on-one then. So people are now actively job searching. We're hosting events. We're inviting them back to job fairs, events, networking events. So it's not really kind of the end of the program. It's the end of that part. And, the fact that they're invited to our events, we have so many events that we host all the time. Every month we have a calendar of events with different guest speakers even. It could be somebody from the association that's going to speak. It could be an alumni. It could be an employer. It could be a job fair, a hiring event, right? So we will always keep inviting people back to those events until they find work. And usually that's a good year of support. We help them for a year. And we find that about over 85% of our clients are either working or if they need to do some other upgrading within a year.
Wow,
so we have some really good success rates.
Is there a real problem of time for people? I'm just imagining some of them would have are working also while doing this. And that's a real issue that they have to face. Do you encounter that they do have time issues?
Yes, and I think this is where having our online services and our digital, again, resources is so important and so useful because people can now use our resources whenever it's convenient for them. So they don't always have to come in person. They don't always have to, come 9 to 5. Right, which is when our offices are open. They can, when they're in our program, sometimes we can even assign them like online courses and modules, and then they can do them in the evening. So it's kind of like self-directed, or we call it asynchronous learning. So it's kind of at their own time and pace. We even adapt to when we're talking about pre-arrival, for example, right? Because even the time differences and stuff. So we try to make sure we have different workshops and events, either early in the morning or later in the afternoon. Sometimes it could be a weekend event. But, we try to make sure that our events and some of our key services are accessible, sensitive to time. Our networking events sometimes, especially with alumni, because they're working too. So if we want them to come back and participate and support, it'll often be maybe an evening event or like kind of after work, like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so people can participate.
So basically for people who really, really want to find work, you just gotta have to invest really the time. And it's just like all the information is out there in the internet. Here, there are services that are available for you, but there are still some people who complain about, I can't find work, I can't find bridging program, or I'm here working in a totally unrelated industry, and I want to be in in my industry. So there are things that you can do.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's really just a matter of how much do you want it and how wise are you in looking for it.
I think one of like the advice or the maybe, you know, the understanding that people will come to when they come to our services is that actually there's no like quick and easy solution. Like looking for work is hard work. And it requires a lot of investment. It's not going to be that you meet one person, you'll get a job. You call one company, you're going to get a job. The most successful candidates, the people who do find work, they will call hundreds, dozens of companies. They'll apply to many, many jobs. They'll go on numerous interviews before they'll get that job. I think that's a mindset that people have to be prepared for. If they know that that's the reality, then they're prepared for it, right? If they have the expectation that, like, you know, why do I have to apply to so many companies, or why do I have to call so many places? Why did they, even one company sometimes will interview you 3 times.
Right,
Be
right.
like, okay, why do they have to interview me so many times? Why are they asking me these questions? It's already in my resume, right? They saw that in my resume. Why are they asking me again? So sometimes it's that mindset, and you have to be like open to it and to understand that it will take time. You know, sometimes I talked about you apply for a job, it might take a couple of weeks for you to hear back. And then they interview you, and then it's like a couple of weeks more go by, and then it's like, okay, you get a second interview, and then they want to do your reference check. That might take another couple of weeks. So even with one job posting, it takes time. Right. Which is, I know, not great news, because people, of course, I understand they need work and they want to work and quickly. And sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it takes time.
Right. But that's a very good advice, to know what you're in for.
Exactly.
And so that, because it takes a toll on someone's ego sometimes, like when they get, for example, in that series of interviews or series of steps to get to an interview, and then towards the latter part, they think they get it. They think they already got it, but then they don't get a call back after the second or third layer of the process, and then it shatters their ego.
Yeah.
If you prepare yourself, so it also takes a certain strength and you know, some mental.
I think it's to think, okay, now I'm one step closer, right? Because it's going to take time, and the more time that you're investing, and you know, you're going to get to that right opportunity. But having, I think, again, the feedback that we get from our clients is that is one of the most valuable things that they get from participating in our services, or services like ours, is just that confidence. They get that support not only from our staff and from our organization, but from their peers. Now they're meeting, sometimes they feel very isolated. Anybody who's looking for work, they're home, they're not part of that, you know, like a workplace, you know, maybe their family and friends are all out working, they feel very isolated. And so just having the opportunity to meet other people who are also job searching, who also went on an interview, didn't get a call back, or who did get a job, like they see the success, that's always really motivating to say, okay, next time that's going to be me, right? So they get to meet people who, like I said, have gone through that journey and got their dream job at the end, right? So that's their motivation. So confidence, motivation, that peer support, that professional support, these are all some of the things that they gain through our services.
Yes, and you can't underestimate the importance of that, because that can be what's going to power you through the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's not just your skills, because some people think, oh, I have all these tools under my belt, I have all these skills, why am I still jobless, why don't they want me? So it's not that simple, or it's not just that. Once you know the whole intricacies of the world of looking for employment in Canada or in the GTA, and that's what your company
we're helping.
That's how you support. So now I'm getting a very good picture, and it's very. I've learned a lot in the last 55 minutes. I don't want to forget about the entrepreneurship. Before we end, I just want you to tell us about that also, because some people think that it's just for employment, but you also have programs for entrepreneurship for those who want to start businesses.
Yeah, we do help newcomers if they have experience from their home country. They often ran their own business. They were entrepreneurs and they're interested in pursuing that same option here in Canada. We do help them to learn a little bit about the process of setting up their business, creating a business plan, doing that kind of market research so that they are prepared and that they can then go ahead and start their business. We do, again, even networking for small businesses as well. So for our entrepreneur clients, we'll have opportunities for them to come back and even sell their goods and, share about their businesses with other businesses as well. So that networking can also really support. And we try to make sure that we support them in that endeavor. It is a real great opportunity. Again, we know that our economy in Canada is actually built mostly on small businesses. And so this is a really great way for people to look at how they want to be part of our labor market, whether it's through work or through starting their own business. We do also on our website have an entrepreneur a hub. So it's kind of an area where we have lots of resources and information about how to start a business.
That was one of what surprised me. I remember being surprised when I saw that in your website that Canada is mostly fueled by small businesses. That's one part I admittedly didn't know about. For those who think that it's just that ACCES Employment is just for job seekers who want to be employed, at least now they know that you also give support for those who want to continue being in the entrepreneurial environment.
Yes.
Any parting message that you want to give to our audience?
I think just, the importance of, sometimes we think of job search as being something that people should just know how to do. It's like but in fact, there is a science to it. And so I think that's really important is that, because people will just do it on their own and then feel frustrated. And sometimes it's a little bit of a tweak in what's in their resume, how they're sending it out, who they're sending it out to, what they're saying in an interview. They may think everything is great, but, we give them that feedback. Like we'll do, for example, if people are doing a mock interview, like a practice run, and then they'll answer the question, we're like, okay, maybe don't say that. Say it this way instead, or maybe mention this instead. And they will notice that when they come back and say, oh my gosh, the interview, they asked those right questions. Now I knew how to answer it and I changed it and it made the difference. We have to understand that for the employer, it's a big investment as well. Like having the right people and hiring is a big investment for them. And hiring the wrong person can be difficult. So they do have quite a process that they invest, right, in their process of hiring. And so, we have to kind of understand how to kind of navigate that and make sure that we know what they're looking for so that we can, not say things or do things that might kind of come across in a way that will set off any flags and maybe not intended that way. So just, helping people to tweak those things and so on. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work for sure. And, we have the supports there to help them to know how to navigate their job search. And again, as I said, just having that network is so important because you can't do it on your own. You got to talk to people. You got to get yourself out there. And that's also hard to do. A lot of people are shy about that. They're like, okay, I have the skills. It's in my resume. But they have to get out there and they have to talk to people. So we really encourage and push that as well.
So we've covered a lot today, from how to deal with foreign credential recognition to digital job search, to overcoming the myth, for example, of Canadian experience and finding mentors who truly understand what it's like to start over. If there's one thing to take away, it's this: you are not alone. There are systems, people, and programs, just like the ones at ACCES Employment, designed specifically to help you not just to survive, but to thrive in your professional life here in Canada. A heartfelt thank you to our guest, Manjeet Dhiman.
Thank you so much.
And to the entire team at ACCES Employment for their continued work in helping newcomers and job seekers find their place in the Canadian labor force. So join us again next time on Thrive in Canada, where we continue to explore the real challenges and experiences of life here in the true North, and most importantly, how to thrive. Take care, stay inspired, and we'll see you again in the next episode.